Domestic violence is a pervasive issue here in this country. Every year, millions of lives are impacted by domestic violence. But don't just hear it from me. Let's hear it from some familiar faces.
The story of Rihanna and Chris Brown.
Highly publicized fight at actress Halle Berry's house.
Regularly beaten by his father.
Combs assaulting then-girlfriend Cassie Ventura in a hallway.
Every minute, 20 people are physically abused by someone they love.
3 women are murdered every day by their intimate partners.
3 out of 4 advocates report that immigrant survivors fear accessing legal services related to their abuser.
More than 80% of survivors of intimate partner violence reported that their abusive partners disrupted their ability to work.
1 in 5 college students experience dating violence by a current or former partner.
Black women are 35% more likely to experience domestic violence than white women in the United States.
1 in 4 women and 1 in 10 men in the U.S. face severe intimate partner violence.
Women who experience domestic abuse are 3 times more likely to attempt suicide.
Phenomenon. Colding.
Hello, guys. Hello. Welcome back to Life's Deceit with me, your girl, Jen Simpson. Did you guys miss me? I missed you. How are you guys doing? How's your morning, your afternoon, your night, wherever you are in the world? Welcome back and welcome to my new listeners. Welcome to Life Deceit podcast. I'm Jen Simpson. Guys, I've been away for a couple of weeks. I know. I missed you guys so much. I've been battling flu back to back. You know, here in Canada, it's starting to get cold. It's almost, wait. I was supposed to say, wiki. I was supposed to say, wiki, winter time. So I've been sick. As you guys can hear it in my voice, it's a little bit raspy still. But I am back in full effect. Feeling good today. Feeling nice. Feeling good. I hope that you guys are having an amazing day, night, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Welcome. It's your girl. So guys, it is my favorite month. It is October. It is also my birthday. And it is also my 1-year anniversary of being on YouTube. And another part, it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I'm excited for this month because I have experienced domestic violence firsthand, secondhand, being an abusive, household from when I was a child, and having friends and family that has experienced it and learning that it's not something that you judge. It's something that you try to understand. And if you don't understand, you do your research, you give love, you give grace, and you just try to be present for people. You know, a lot of times we see people, they're judging. Right now, especially in social media, there's so much coming out about celebrities. There's so many people who have found the courage and strength to share their stories, to come out and say, you know what, this is what I experienced, this is what I went through. This is what has been keeping me imprisoned. This is what has been strongholding me, this thing that I've experienced, and I can't tell anybody because I feel so ashamed of myself, ashamed that I allowed myself to go through it. And this month, I'm honoring myself. I'm honoring the survivors, the thrivers, the people who accepted their calling and their purpose, and they're advocates, and they're using their voice and their experiences to empower other people and show people that they can also get through it the same way that they did. Show people that they can thrive despite their experiences, thrive through the domestic violence that they experienced, thrive out of it. So this month I'll be honoring survivors and thrivers. And today we have a very, very special guest. And she is not only a survivor, but she's a thriver, and she's a mother of 3. She's an amazing, phenomenal woman that I can call my sister, my friend. And I cannot wait to share her with you guys. Her name is Regina Latrice. Beautiful name. And she's here to share her story. You know, Regina went through a decade relationship with, first it was her boyfriend when she was approximately 13 years old. She met him, her first love. They got married, and she went through domestic violence for a decade, a very, very long time. And to find the courage was hard for her to leave, because you know, when you meet your first love and you're in love and you know you feel good and you feel like this is your person, it's hard for you to leave the relationship knowing that it's no good for you, knowing that it's toxic, knowing that it could end up deadly, knowing that it could kill your soul, knowing that you will never be able to do the things you want to do because you feel like you're trapped in that relationship. She's here to share her story. She's here to shed light. She is here to be a voice, a sounding board, and remind us situations where we don't understand, just give love. Just love on each other. Just hug each other. Try to be an outlet for people who are going through things and they feel too ashamed to share their stories with other people. She's here to be a powerhouse that she is for you. And I cannot wait to hear what she has to say and share with us. Domestic violence is not an easy thing to go through. It is painful. It is heartbreaking. But we are here to help each other pull through, stay alive, figure out who we are, become the woman and man we're supposed to be, and live in purpose. So let's welcome Regina Latrice. How are you doing? How was your day? How has your week been going so far?
I am doing good. This has been a busy day, but a very productive day. So I am excited.
So for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I want to honor and celebrate not just women, but people who have gone through these experiences. Because growing up for me, I thought it was normal. I was taught that, you know, if a man hits you, that means that he loves you.
Right.
All these things that we live by and we believe it in. You know, we see right now on social media, society, what's happening right now. Women are coming out and men are coming out and nobody believes them because they say, why did you take so long?
Right.
And I always say, if you haven't lived it, you would never understand it fully.
Exactly. Yep.
And if you don't have anything nice to say, just be a support. And just be there. Don't say anything. Just watch it play out, because I feel like at the same time, when you know somebody very well, you can't picture them doing something that they're being accused of.
Exactly. Yep.
There's a lot of people that are saying no way and they're making up allegations. And I'm more so hands off, sit quietly, be a support for that person. Doesn't matter what side they're on, and just be present.
Exactly.
So I came across your video and it literally had my heart dancing, and I felt good because, you know, I could see you. I could see your heart. I could see that you are in your process of, I love myself. I went through it and that wasn't the end of me.
Right.
And I just wanted you to share with our listeners who you are, where you're from, what do you represent, and what gives you strength every day?
Yes, ma'am. So I am Regina Latrice. I am 35 years old. I am a mother of 3 beautiful children. I have a 19-year-old son, 18-year-old daughter, and a 13-year-old daughter. I am also an entrepreneur. I have an online women's clothing store, and I am a new author. I am currently finding myself, who I am and who God created me to be. So I have been doing a lot of like women group. I have a women's group as well where we go like a foodie group. And I am just here to make a difference, share my testimony, share my story, in hopes that it will help someone else come out. I'm in a process of just learning myself and learning God in a whole different way. And just learning myself and doing the things that I need to do to make sure that I'm taking care of myself so that I can take care of other people and help other people. But it first starts with self-love and knowing who you are and walking boldly in who you are. So for me, my strength, of course, are my children every day, my family, other women, single moms, just the world, men, everyone that needs to hear my message. That is where I find strength.
Congratulations on your book. I did see that.
Thank you.
It takes a lot of strength to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
Because, a lot of people be like, oh, you're just an author. No. I'm a creator. I'm an artist. I'm purposeful.
Right.
God put it in me to be an author. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And your son's 19 and you're 34.
35. So yeah,
You're 35.
Yes.
I'm thinking about my own age because I just turned 35.
Okay. Yes.
So with life experiences, what helped you to get to where you are now? Tell us about your journey and where you're from. What's your background?
Okay, you didn't ask me. I'm sorry. So I am from St. Louis, Missouri. I'm originally from East St. Louis. I grew up in East St. Louis, Illinois, but I currently reside in St. Louis, Missouri. I am a middle child, I guess. I'm the next to the youngest. I have 10 siblings. My mom had 7 biological and she adopted 3, but they're all siblings. So we're all family. So I'm from East St. Louis. So now I currently reside in St. Louis, Missouri.
Nice. And you grew up in St. Louis?
In East St. Louis. So that's like, it's the same pretty much. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump, and you over here in St. Louis.
Okay. I've never been, but I hope to travel there one day soon. I have a whole bunch of places to travel on my bucket list.
Oh, cool.
So growing up as a child, were you raised with mom and dad?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I had my mom and my dad in my house and my siblings as well. Yeah, we all grew up. For the most part, they were there.
Okay, that's good. I know that you, in one of your interviews, you said that your sister went through a life experience that shifted the family.
Yeah. So at 17 years old, my sister was shot in a drive-by shooting. I think I was 13, 14 years old when that happened. So, of course, my mom, she had to really give that attention to her, rightfully so. I can't be mad at that because, I wouldn't want to trade places with her. So I commend my mom for having the strength to do that amongst trying to keep a house up. So she was shot. So that took a lot of attention. She was in different facilities, getting the help that she needed and getting treatments, which took a lot of attention off of the house and the other kids because what do you do in that situation? If it was me, I would probably do the same thing. I would want my mom there. I would want her to be with me. I would want her home with my siblings who are well. So that kind of like shifted things for us, but it was not like in a horrible way. We just had to make adjustments.
Yeah. The reason why I asked that question is because, people try to pinpoint where things started for you. How did your domestic violence start? And I know that you had mentioned in one of your interviews that, your mom, as a mother, that's what a mom does.
Yes.
Right? They're there for their children when they need them, nurturing, caring for them in whatever way that we need our parents. That's how they're going to be there for us, or they're supposed to be there for us, right?
Yes,
and
ma'am.
I know that you don't blame your mom for anything.
No, I don't.
But during that time when your sister was going through that, going through her recovering stages, learning to navigate through life after being shot and no longer has that full mobility anymore, your mom had to put most of her energy into your sister.
Yes.
Would you say at that point is when you started to feel a little bit more maybe neglected and you were craving for love, that you just felt like your mom was giving more attention to your sister?
Yeah, so that's exactly when it started. And my dad, we weren't as close as we were. My dad had different struggles, but right now, the relationship is much better than it was. So I kind of learned to be sneaky and, kind of learned to be conniving and not just do things because I knew that the attention, my mom wouldn't catch me doing it. So the first guy that's telling me, you beautiful, I love you. That of course, as a kid, I really don't know what that looks like. I really don't know what it should look like because I didn't have like I said, me and my dad, we didn't have like a good father-daughter relationship. It wasn't, he like I said, he had struggles. So I didn't know. So I'm looking for attention. My mom, like I said, rightfully so. And I commend my mom for doing that and having strength to do that. But I kind of took on like, wanted to help around the house, even at a young age. I want to help my mom and be there for my, siblings, like cooking, cleaning, doing everything that I could. But still, I was lacking love. I was lacking attention. So kind of met this guy in school. It started off as a joke. I really didn't even really want to talk to him, but my friends, we're in the 6th grade. They just joking around like she likes you, and it kind of started from there. So I found myself being entangled with that and going through.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.
Just different things as far as like being abused and, just different things. Cause I knew it's like you have discernment, but I didn't really know that it was God speaking to me.
Yeah.
When he would show me things and he would be a certain way and God would tell me like, this is not right. But I didn't understand that was the voice of God at that time. But we would fight and argue, of course we're young. He's dealing with other girls and, this causes a lot of toxicity, right? So for me, I would go back and try to find something, or he'll say things like, "Oh, it's your fault," or "You did this," or I don't have anyone," because he had his background with his life as well. Like he didn't have that nurturing, really close relationship. So I would feel guilt, like it's like the trauma bonding, like we both are going through the same thing basically.
Yeah.
So we're bonding together, and it's like I can't leave you because you need me. If I leave you, who's gonna be there? So kind of got caught up into that.
You said trauma bonding, and recently I saw a video talking about familiar spaces, familiar people.
Mm-hmm.
And, this week it hit me that I was surrounded by people that were familiar to my past.
Mm.
And their spirits were calling me back to a old version of myself. So it's almost like trauma bonding, right? When you go to a certain environment that that is no longer of you,
right?
It kind of sucks you into that place, right? Back to that old version of yourself. And I know you mentioned that when you were younger, and what I find that a lot of people, a lot of parents, we miss this. We miss these signs.
Mm-hmm.
I had this conversation with somebody who said that they wanted 15 children. And that's beautiful if you want to have 15 children with your wife. I'm not knocking it. But my response was, if you're going to have 15 children, please make sure you have the time, the energy, and you have it in you to give the same amount of love, energy, time, and attention to all 15. Because there will be there may be 2 or 3 or 4 that feel like they're not getting the same attention as their sibling, and then they go find that type of love from somebody else.
Yes. Yep.
So being that young, and now you're feeling like, okay, well, mom's not paying attention. And a lot of kids do this now in society. You see it. Mom's not paying attention. She's too occupied with my sister. It's taking all her energy. She doesn't have the time to sit with me. She doesn't have the time to sit and ask me, how's school going? What am I feeling on the inside? What were you feeling? How were you navigating, figuring out yourself as a young girl, going through different changes, your body, your mind, your heart, your spirit, and your soul, school?
Yeah.
How were you dealing with that at that age, if you can remember?
I dealt with it by running. Like the moment I felt any discomfort, like rejection, like I said, my father, we didn't have a really, close relationship. But as a young girl, even before I got involved, I always, you watch the movies and you like, I want that relationship with my father or my mom. And, I want to be like this. I want to be the princess. I want these things when I grow up. You have a picture because of based on what you are looking at, thinking that it's all glamorous. That's how you want your life to be. So I had to deal with things. Even now I'm learning to deal with things and facing them head on instead of running. Because the moment that I feel a little discomfort, like the moment that I feel like I said, now I know that was God's voice trying to get me away from that because it was the enemy's plan to destroy my life. But the minute that, okay, I say I'm done, but I start feeling discomfort because I'm going back home and nobody's really paying me any attention. Well, I may as well go over here. At least I got a little bit of comfort, just a little bit. So I'm just going to deal with this. And I'm going to block out everything that I know is right. I know my conscience, I'm going to just block it out. You shouldn't do this and shouldn't be with him. I'm going to block it all out because I want to feel something. I want to feel some type of love and affection.
Yep. And you would do anything to keep it and not disturb it.
Right. Yeah.
So every time he blamed you and said, well, it was your fault why I did this or this is happening, you wanted to just silence all your feelings so you could just feel like you're in your happy place.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what.
And growing up for me, I can relate to that because it wasn't a sibling that my mom was putting her energy into. It was her partner. She wanted her relationship to work so badly that she neglected all the abuse that was happening around me and tunnel visioned into her partner because she didn't want him to leave her. What would you, now as a parent, a blessed mother of 3, what would you tell mothers that have children and, life changes? We go through different things, parents, we lose jobs, we have a newborn baby, things happen, things happening all the time. What would you tell parents to do when you have children, more than one? How do you focus in? How do you make sure you're giving your time and your energy to all of them where one doesn't feel like they're not getting it? One doesn't feel like they're being neglected.
Yeah. So one of the things that I try to do with my kids, because of course after the divorce, like their father is pretty much, he's not around. They still communicate with them and everything, but it's not like on a regular basis. So I have to pick up extra shifts to pay the bills and do things, just find my way. But one of the things that I make sure that I do is I'm talking to my kids individually. It was a time where things got a little bit more rough for me. I was doing one-on-one dates with them, and just making sure, even if I'm texting them and just telling them like how proud of them I am, I love them, making sure that I go and sit in their room. Sometimes I go and lay in their beds and just lay with them and just finding ways, because it is, as a single parent, it can be very tough to try to, because it's like everything is on you, right? The weight of the world is on your shoulders, and you have to make sure that this household runs. But at the same time, these kids, because it's not their fault that you're in a situation that you're in, so you have to make sure that you're taking time out to talk to them, to communicate with them, to spend quality time with them. Like I said, even if it's just going into the room when they're watching a movie, just laying in bed with them, doing things like that individually. So, I'm not always like, okay, y'all, come on, let's all watch a movie. I'm going to my son's room, and then my 13-year-old, Mom, can we go to Five Below? Can we go to Walmart? Little things like that. Anytime, can we go to the gas stations? Can you drop me off at school today? Little things like that, I think it helps, because they feel like they understand the goals and stuff that you have, and that you're trying to keep the house going, but they also understand, okay, mom still loves me. She's going to take out whatever time she can and dedicate that to me to make sure that I'm taken care of.
I agree. I agree 100%. And I agree with having separate times for each child. Because I feel like when a child sees that, okay, mommy's putting aside or dad's putting aside time for me and them to bond, it opens up a more safe space for them. Because they see that happening, and then they're like, okay, well, mom is paying attention. So now I feel more comfortable to tell mom that this is going on.
Right.
Tell dad that, okay, I've been feeling this way. Can I share it with you? And we're young moms still. We're young moms still.
Right.
And we're still learning, right? Like the other day, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm old. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm 35. But being a young mom and still navigating, because remember, we weren't taught how to be parents.
Yeah. It doesn't
Nobody
come with
sat down with us, right?
Yeah.
Nobody sat down with us and said, well, this is how you're supposed to be a mom. This is what you're supposed to do. So we're learning with them.
Yeah.
And the other day I found myself, and I'm like to my son, like, tell me what I'm doing that's not right, or you feel like I need to adjust. And when he laid it on me, I'm like, hold up, who you be talking to? But he's right, because we have to create that safe space for them, right?
Yep.
So I agree with you wholeheartedly with that.
Yeah.
When did your domestic violence start? Because I know you said you met him when you were approximately 13 years old.
Yes, and it started shortly after that. I talk about it in my book. I remember going to school with bruises on my arm, and because he would do it in places where you couldn't really see it, and I would be so ashamed. And I just remember, like, just going to school and just feeling like, man, like feeling worthless, like, I didn't matter, like I was just a piece of crap. But
But somehow you kept seeing the love in him for you.
You naturally want to see. And then, you hear people's stories and they give you these sad stories, and, rightfully so, like, he had trauma just like I did. So, I kind of can sympathize with that, but it's just about how you choose to deal with it. And, you have to deal with it in a healthy way, so I understood, like, he's hurting and things like that. So in my mind, it's just like, okay, just keep going, keep fighting. He'll change, he'll get better. But that was some stinking thinking. Stinking.
You said something. You said he had trauma too.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people would say to you, well, why are you making excuses for him? Now listen, it's not that you're making excuses for him. It's that you're giving him grace.
Yes.
And staying doesn't mean that you're giving him grace. It's that you're being understanding that he's human.
Mm-hmm.
And that he has a past too.
Yes.
You can't change him, but you can pray for him and give him that grace without hating him. Because I feel like in the world right now, we're lacking grace.
Mm-hmm.
We expect each other to be perfect. We expect each other to come without flaws.
Yep.
And we forget that when you're creating a family and a relationship, it's two people, two separate people from two different backgrounds. You could have came from a perfect home. To you think it's a perfect home. Dad and mom are in the house every day. You guys have dinner together, but
Mm-hmm.
dad's cheating on mom. And there's a certain energy in the home that you can feel something's off, but visibly you cannot see it, but you can feel it in the spirit.
Right.
Then he could have came from a home where, dad's an alcoholic. He's abusive. And he saw dad hit mom every night he came home from work. He was just miserable, took his anger out on her.
Yep.
Somebody may say, well, your trauma is not really trauma. Your dad was home every night. He put food on the table. You had everything. But that toxic energy that was floating around in the house left you with trauma riddling all over you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
And unconsciously affects you in a different way mentally.
Right.
For him, it'll be different too, because now maybe he becomes abusive just like his father. But these are two separate people joining a relationship that never spoke about their trauma, never spoke about what they went through as a child.
Yeah.
And now you're creating a relationship, a bond.
Yeah.
An unhealed bond.
Mm-hmm.
And now you added children to the mix. What do you think is going to happen? Because naturally we weren't raised to talk about these things as Black people.
Yeah.
We're taught to silence everything, right? So when you say that he has trauma, somebody may see it as you're making excuses. But no, you're giving him grace.
Yes.
And grace enough to wake up one day and say, you know what? I love myself enough. I love you enough. And I love my children even more to leave.
Yeah. So I've had the interview that you actually saw. I had people, oh my God, they went in on me. You're saying I don't feel bad for you put your children in a situation, taking them back and everything. I start off telling my story because I'm not perfect, right? So I start off saying how I found myself figuring out smart. God gave me a brain. I'm smart. I'm a pretty smart gal, but sneaking around, knowing it was wrong. My mom's not here. Let me figure out a way to go be with this guy because my mom has to be at the hospital with my sister. So I'm gonna, put myself in this position. That was wrong. I consciously knew that was wrong. So I always tell people I don't hate my ex. I don't have God has really delivered and healed my heart, but he needs help. And I even told him this. I said, listen, I forgive you. I understand, I understand why you would feel like you needed to do certain things or be a certain way. I get it. Like I was in your position, right? But it's not about that. It's about you. God has still allowed you to be on this earth, which means he's not done with you. The same way he blessed me to get out of it and to share my story, you are still able to be delivered, set free, healed, and you're able where God, if you allow God in your heart and don't feel like you're a failure, don't feel like, that you're not, you can't, there's no way you can turn back or you can't get it right because you can. And that is my prayer for him is that he gets it right. Even 7 years later after the divorce, we really, we don't get along too well. But I make sure that anytime I encounter him, if I do talk to him on the phone, if he does come around, I'm showing him God's grace, even after all of this, even after the mess that you left me with. So it's about when you see people through the eyes of God and you look at yourself and say, wait a minute. Yes, while someone did hurt you and do things to you, you're not perfect. And God has given you grace and forgiven you. So who are you not to forgive this man?
Say that again.
Who are you? God has given me grace and forgiven me. So who am I not to forgive this man for what he did to me? God has healed me. God has set me free. So why am I going to walk around here bitter and mad? It does nothing for nobody, you know.
I wanted to get you to say that a third time because it's not said enough. It's not said enough, and it breaks my heart because we want to demonstrate God's love to people. We want to tell everybody about the love of God and the things that God has done for us because we are all sinners.
Yes.
Not one of us are perfect or without sin. Doesn't matter what it is. Whether we said something evil, nasty to somebody, did something, we've all done something, right? And this week I was in my bed and I was talking to God and I'm like, God, what is going on? Because we want to hold people hostage.
Yep.
We want to imprison them for things that they've done. And they're trying to repent. And they're trying to get to know who God is. And the only way for you to know who God is and to experience God is through who?
Through us.
It's through us. It's through humans.
Yes.
Flesh.
Yes.
Spirit. And if we are so hateful,
yep,
and we want to hold everything against people 20 years, 30 years down the line, they've changed.
Yep.
And they're trying to correct their wrongs. But then we want God to forgive us?
Yes. And you know, it's a saying that I use all the time. And it says that holding grudges is like drinking poison and you're waiting on the other person to die. When you are walking around here mad and bitter, that's not hurting anyone but you.
But you.
I mean, I can't. I don't understand how people can do that. Because if I tried to do it, I felt miserable. So I can just imagine I'm never going to forgive you. You know what you're doing to you're hurting yourself. You know,
right? Internally, you're
yes,
killing yourself.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
And you know, I think people we don't always get enough time. Like you're in an interview, you're in a fireside chat. You don't have that many hours to sit and talk about things and explain everything that you said. But people will pick out certain things and be like, well, that's silly of you to stay and give him grace. No, 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 no. I gave him grace, but I still left. And I'm still giving him grace and praying that he will change because God showed up in my life and turned me around. And I wasn't perfect. So I know that God can do it for him if he wants it.
Yes. Yes. And my children, that is my children. They love their dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad that I've never been a type to keep them like they're old enough. They can talk to him. Like I said, we don't really get along, but they can talk. They want to see their dad change. And I want that for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I want that for them, you know, and I just pray for him. Like yesterday, I was just driving and I pray. Sometimes God give me a dream at night when I'm sleeping and I have to get up and pray for him. So I don't want, it's not just about me. That would be selfish of me to be like, well, he did. No, it's not just about me. I wasn't perfect. You know, I'm not going to make excuses and say I deserve anything that happened to me, but it's a learning process for us all. And once I accepted the fact that I had some trauma and things going on internally that I had not dealt with, then that's when I could begin the healing process for real and allow God to take out the things that from my childhood, from, you know, different things that happened to me to be able to really live a fulfilled life. So I want that for him as well. You know, I want him to go to the prisons or to the wherever he has to go to help the man to see, look at what God did for me. Look at what God did. Look at how my ex-wife can still forgive me after what I put her through. You know, look at my children. They love me no matter what. Like, you are worth that.
And that's the thing that people miss is that God puts us through certain things so that we can be a voice for somebody else and a living example.
Yes.
So if we don't want, you know, I don't like using the word victims, but we went through something by the hands of somebody else. And we want those hands and those hearts healed so that they can help deliver other people.
Yes.
Right? So your ex-husband was the same partner you were with from when you were 13 years old?
Yes, ma'am. 13 up until I got divorced 7 years ago. So what's that? We got married, I think I was 21 or 22 years old. And so what's that? 7 years, 35, 28, 27, 28 years old.
Yeah, girl, I'm trying to do the math after I read those comments, and I'm like, are you people really trying to do math right now? Trying to pick
Right.
apart her story? And this is the thing that people will do, right?
Right.
But, you know, I can imagine that he was your first love.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we could say this. He was probably the one who took your virginity, maybe. If I'm
Of
right.
course. Yeah.
So I think, you know, being so young and being with somebody, anybody who's listening, and you can remember being that young and that person being your first love, your first experience in life,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like they're your fuel that you feel like you need and you can't let go.
Right.
It's somebody that you have this connection with, not only bad times, but I'm sure that you guys had amazing times together. You
Yeah.
laughed, you cried, you had your first moments for many things together.
Yes.
So people have to be realistic. When we're going through domestic violence, it's not as easy as it sounds all the time to just pick up and run.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're struggling with imposter syndrome. We don't feel like we're good enough. We don't feel like we'll find anybody else. We feel like this is it. And everybody is like that because this is our first experience. So what else is out there?
Right.
And we struggle and we battle with ourselves, trying to figure out, do I leave? We got kids together. We can make this work. We're married.
Yes.
Because most of us come from a background where there's not many married people in our family.
Mm-hmm.
There's broken homes.
Yep.
So now we're trying to hold on to everything. We're trying to keep everything together because we don't want to look like the one that got divorced. We don't want to be that single mother.
Mm-mm.
There's a lot of things that are playing on our mind. We're trying to strip ourselves apart, saying, you know what? Maybe it's me. Maybe I talk too much. Maybe I could do this more. Maybe I can dress sexier. Maybe I could be more wilder. Maybe I can cook more. Maybe I could be more gentle in my speech with him or her. But it's always back at us. We're always trying to alter ourselves to make things work. Now, during those number of years, going from 13 now as an adult woman, dealing with domestic violence, fighting against flesh and spirit, when you know God's saying, girl, it's time for you to go. I need you out of this. What was that experience like for you? For people who really, you know, I see people trying to pick at domestic violence. Well,
Mm-hmm.
how? How could you stay? Trust me, when I was growing up, let me tell you one thing I said. And I had friends that did it too. But until you experience it, everything that you said goes out the window.
Mm-hmm.
My background's Jamaican, right? So, so I used to say, no boy can't lick me. You must say mad. No boy, you must say mad. Lick who?
Right.
Me? Bad girl, hot girl like me? Like we used to say all these things, and my one friend goes, if a man ever lick me or cheat on me, I'm gonna pour hot oil down his ears. And I'm like, girl, please, you ain't gonna throw nothing down.
Look.
She's like, she's gonna wait till, and guys, don't listen to me, don't do it. I'm just saying, when we're younger, we say things that we're going to do that we don't do because we've never experienced it. So we could say whatever.
Exactly. Yes.
So going through that, I can imagine that you never thought in your life that you would ever experience something like that.
No. So that's the thing, like people, and I have learned that because I used to be the one. If I were you, I would never say that. I rarely say that to anyone. Now, if someone comes and asks me for advice, I would, kind of give my opinion, but I would never say you should. I always say seek God, because I knew like every time I'm talking about, he gave me different ways out to the point. Like I talk about it in my book. I got evicted from my first apartment because God was trying to pull, like it was so many moments where God was trying to pull me. Once I got older, I had a kid, and I'm like, I want to make it work. And like I said, I didn't have the greatest example of, what marriage looked like growing up. So I thought my mom made it work with my dad. My dad had some of these similar things, but my mom is sticking through it. That was her story. That's what she chose to do. But that's the only example that I had. So going through that and knowing like, I need to let it go and things, but the kid, we have 3 kids. I also had another baby, but it was a stillborn. So I'm like, I want to make it work for my family. I don't want my kids split up. I don't know anything else. Who's going to want me? I don't, no self-esteem. What is that? I had none. So I'm thinking, well, nobody's going to want me, especially with 3 kids. What man's going to, so I may as well stay with this. But the older I got, God began, because he got more intense, like the abuse got more intense, and his addictions and things. So God would deal with me, and I would always leave or say I'm gonna leave, and then, right before it's time, I make an excuse. Well, maybe, or he'll do something like, okay, I'm gonna stop going to church, or I'm gonna stop doing this and that, and he'll stop for a moment. So that's giving me hope. And that's like, okay, I can make it work. We can make it work. It's just, he got struggles. I got struggles. We're gonna get through this. But the older I got and the more I started to realize it, and God started to speak to me more, he spoke to me more and more and more. And I remember the last day, I kept pushing my court date back for divorce court because I was afraid. I didn't know. It was like I would pull the trigger, but then it's like, hold up, but what about these bills? What about the kids? And what you gonna do now? This is 20 years in the game. What are you gonna do? Where are you going? So the moment before the court, we went to court. It was one last time, and I remember it was right before the holidays, and I called the court and I asked them again, can I push it back? It was like right before Thanksgiving. They said, well, if you do it this time, then you're not going to be able to come until next year. And I'm just like, okay, no, I can't wait that long. But I was afraid. I was so, because I'm like, it's getting real. The date is coming close. And God spoke to me so clearly when I hung that phone up. And that's one of the times I knew it was God. He said, you're either going to let this marriage die or your ministry is going to die. And that was the moment that like lit a light bulb in me. And I said, oh no, I'm not going to play around, because honestly, I don't think that I would still be here because God wasn't playing with me at that point. He's giving me all these different, I'm talking about, made the way path so clear for me to just be done. And I kept, because I'm telling you, when you're so comfortable with something, I'm talking about a day apart, you feel like you're dying. It's so many, but I knew now, I understand that was just the enemy trying to get me to stay entangled, because he didn't want me to really walk into my purpose. So it was a struggle. And then just imagine from 13 to 28, the mental bondage that I was going through, the torment, and having to read, like, as every day, ask God to continue to take those thoughts out of your mind, because they still sneak up. And did I make the right choice? And, and you see your kids suffering because of the divorce. You seeing them behaviors changing in school, and you're seeing them sad, and it's like nothing you can do. Like, but you know how that pain feels as an adult, and it's like, God, can you just give me their pain and just let them? Because I don't want them to. Because I know what they're feeling, but I know it even more. So it was literally just a moment where the older I got, the more I had to draw to God. I had all these different people in my ears saying, well, I shouldn't go. I was with the church, and they were saying, just pray. The church, sometimes they don't understand, just pray and fast. But it was like God, he really started to speak to my heart and said, if you don't let this go, you don't know what you're doing to yourself. So I had to get to that point, and it was still the hardest thing I had to do, in my life, but I had to do it.
You know what? You said so many things right now, and I think people really need to understand how important it is to have your own relationship with God, not influenced by anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Not influenced by anybody.
Yep.
Because your relationship with God will direct each and every step and thought process.
Yep.
And you said something. You said the church told you to stay and pray and fast. But you already got your confirmation from God. And had you not had a relationship with God, a personal one, a real connection, you would not have been where you are today. So this is why it's important for us to, we learn about God from other people, but it's also important to take your time and say, you know what? Thank those people for introducing me to God, for letting me know that there is a God. But now I got to take the time out and figure out who God is to me, for me.
Yep.
Who he is to me. Because if you don't, you're going to be confused. You're going to be searching for answers through everybody instead of going to God.
Yep.
And that's where we have to learn to silence even ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because our mind and our heart will want two separate things, except for what God wants for us.
Yep. And you know what? Honestly, and I say this all the time, my mom, that was the greatest gift she gave me, was God having me in church. The greatest gift, more than anything she could have ever done. Like, I used to hate going to church. We used to hide in the alley until church was out because we lived right behind the church, and she would make us go to church, and she would, sometimes she would have to work. So we would hide, and then we would watch the people come out after service is over, and then we'll go home. So I tell people this all the time, and I'm so serious when I say this, but I didn't have a relationship with God until this marriage and this divorce. From a few years before my divorce, that's when I really knew God. I had religion. I didn't know God, but the process that I had to go through, that's when I really learned who He was. I was just doing church. I wasn't, I just knew doing it because I know that's what to do. I know to pray, read my word, but the relationship, I had to come to this low place to get that.
Oh, girl. Let me tell you, when you're in a relationship and you want the love from somebody, God is non-existent. You're just doing it. You're just doing church. You're just doing what you're supposed to, what your parents taught you. Read the Bible, pray. And you don't even believe in your own prayers.
Mm-mm.
You believe in the person that you're with. And I can tell you this. 10 years ago, God told me to surrender. And listen carefully, guys. God told me to surrender. And He even said, surrender the partner that you're with. And I said, surrender. I said, okay. Okay, I surrender. Okay, God, I gave my life to you. I'm all yours. Right? And God told me to go absent for 6 months. And I said, go absent for 6 months? How am I going to do that? He's going to leave me. He's going to cheat on me. I can't do that. And He kept saying, you need to do the things I told you to do. Because what I have for you is greater than what you think you have right now.
Mm.
So when I say surrender, I mean surrender everything. Your children, your whole entire being, the man that you're with. Because if he's for you, I'm going to shape him. And I'm going to bring him to his knees. So a lot of times we don't even realize that. We're holding on to this relationship when we really should be screaming to have the relationship with God, because He is the one that gave us everything.
Yes.
And He will see us through everything. So that relationship, that connection, as much as people want to say, oh, everybody always wants to bring up God, listen, it's important. It's a relationship that you need. It's a relationship that you want. It's a relationship you never want to die or leave you. When you said that, it's because your faith was in this man. You were trying to make this man change for you when God wanted you to focus on yourself.
Yep.
When you're going through the process of saying, like, what was the final straw for you to say, you know what? God, I trust you.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.
God, I'm ready. God, anything that is at the doorstep for me right now, I'm ready to face it with you by my side and with my 3 children. And whatever happens next, I trust you wholeheartedly and I'm not afraid.
Mm-hmm. So that moment when God spoke to me, I mean, I can't describe the feeling that I had. It was like, it was fear. Like, not only was my ministry going to die, but so was I.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about my kids. And I said, God, I know that you'll help me. You brought me this far. I know that you'll help me get through it. As painful as it is, it feels like somebody's dying. I'm losing a loved one. But I know that you're not playing with me. You have given me chance after chance. At this point, but He's not the problem. I'm the problem. So I wasn't gonna play around. I mean, it almost felt like God was like right next to me when he said it, like tapping me on my shoulder, like, look, let me tell you something. And that was enough for me. Like when you hear God in that type of way, he talks to you in that way to where you're afraid, but it's not like it was like I was afraid that I was gonna be gone up out of here. And I didn't want that. So I had to do it. I mean, it was no looking back. And I did it, and it was no looking back. But I did look back because I did, even after the divorce, I was still trying to make it work. Even after that, that's crazy, right? Still trying to make it work. Took him back, and he would be here for spending the night and things like that. But God showed me, like, you see this, you think that this is gonna work. It's still the same things going on, but it's worse than when you were with him. So why would you keep? And I said, let it go. So I just, after that, I just couldn't, but I was still feeling that loneliness and still feeling that desire to be with him because I had been with him for so long. So he was still, of course, hurt. He didn't want me to go through with the process. So we were still trying to make it work, and it was just not. And actually, I was at a prayer service with one of my mentors. She was preaching at a service, and she called me up there for prayer, and she said that God was showing her my face, and when I tell you, she broke something off of me that night. I mean, she broke the spirit,
Stronghold.
broke it.
Mm-hmm.
And I never felt the same way about him since, ever. Sometimes, honestly, I forget. Unless I have to talk about him, I forget that he even exists. That's what God did for me. So sometimes when, I have to think a little bit longer when someone says, okay, give me a time when, because God has literally, he's been stripping those things that happened to me out of my mind and out of my memory. So he's amazing.
I would love to dive deeper into soul ties and strongholds.
Mm-hmm.
People don't understand, or they don't believe. I wouldn't say people don't believe. When you and somebody join, whether it's even through your hands, the energy that comes off of somebody. I don't know if you ever hugged somebody before, and when they leave you, it's like you either feel really happy or you just, and your spirit, you can feel it in your spirit. You're like shaky.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Same thing as sex. When you start sleeping with a partner, there's a soul tie.
Yep.
It's like a body connection.
Yep.
Like there's your souls just connected with each other. That's why you know how they talk about woman intuition. This is why women, we can usually pick up on when our partners are stepping outside of the relationship.
Yep.
Because there's already a soul tie.
Yep.
And that's what was going on. And that's why we talk about spiritual cleanse. When you leave somebody and you're ending a relationship, you literally have to go through a process of spiritual cleanse.
Yep.
And break those strongholds off of you.
Literally.
So when you left, and I know that wasn't easy. It's not easy at all. It's emotionally draining. It hurts. It's lonely. You feel like you have to rebuild yourself.
Yes.
How was it for you? And for women who are, they've left, they're in the process of leaving, they want to leave, what advice can you give to them in the process of leaving? Or just they're stuck, they don't feel like they need that person?
Yeah. I would say first, always seek God and ask him for wisdom. Everyone's situation is different. Some people can just leave. Some people it's not that easy for, especially if you're dependent on a person for finances and everything. But trust God, put your trust in God. If God is speaking and God is telling you to leave something, trust and know that he is going to provide a way out. He's going to provide for you. You don't have to worry about lacking. You may not be able to do all the things you used to do. You may not have everything that you want, but he will take care of you. He has a purpose for you. It is his will for you to help someone. He allows you to go through the things, we make choices, but sometimes God allows things to happen, but it's for a bigger purpose. It's for his glory, and it's for us to help someone else. So just be bold enough to know if you're a man or a woman, if you have kids, think about your children. Think about the effects that is having on them when they're seeing certain things and hearing certain things, generational things. Like I have to pray a lot for my kids that those generational curses do not go upon them because of what it's like a generational, it's a cycle. You have to think about the bigger picture. It's gonna hurt, it's gonna, feel like death, but it's only for a moment. It is only for a moment. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy is gonna come in the morning. And that's what I had to learn. It was hard, still hard some days, but I would not take this moment back for anything in the world. I would not go back. I would not change anything. The only thing I probably would change is I would have left sooner so I could have more time to do the things that God, called and designed for me to do. But just know that there is hope, there is joy. You are beautiful, you are loved, and you are worthy. I don't care what anyone tells you. Look at yourself in the eyes of God. Ask yourself, how does God see me? And you every day you read, you pray, you ask God to show you who you are through his eyes. Ask him to show you what his purpose is for your life. Don't let one individual rob you of the greatness and the goodness that God has for you and your family. So you can do it. I am a living witness. I am a testimony for you. I actually live this. This is not a joke. This is not a game. I know exactly what you're going through, but I also know that there is beauty on the other side. He is giving me beauty for ashes, and I'm so grateful for that. And I wouldn't change anything. Like, it's worth it. It is worth the tears, the heartache, the pain, the struggle. It's worth it because I know that my story is going to help so many other people. And at the end of this thing, I'm going to see why God had me to do it the way he had me do it, and why God allowed me to go through so many things, because it's going to touch someone. And if I can just reach one person, I've done my job. If I can just reach one or two people to help them to be free, that is a blessing for me. That is a blessing. And it's an honor to be able to do that. And it's an honor to be able to share my story. I had to get to this point. It wasn't always easy, but I'm here now and I'm not afraid. And, fear is going to try to creep up on you and tell you that what you're going to do and how you're going to make it, but you can make it. Trust me, you can.
I love that. It's like you're speaking power into me all over again. Now, it's never easy doing it alone. It's not something that some people maybe, but finding that deep strength within, it takes a lot of encouraging.
Yes.
What was your sort of source of strength, and who was that person for you? Even though, people were telling you to stay and, they didn't quite understand what you're going through, besides God and your children, who was that little voice in the back of your head cheering you on, saying, girl, you can do it?
My family and my friends. I have a great support system. That's one thing I can't say. Like, my family, they've always wanted the best for me, but I was making my own choices. So I didn't really always want to involve them in things because I knew I was going to be right back, right? But they've always been supportive. So I knew that they would have my back. Like, it's 10 of us. I have my siblings, my parents. I knew that they would have my back because they were really helping me anyway while I was in it, doing things. So I knew that I was going to be okay. And they assured me of that, like, we got you. And it's amazing to have that because in my friends. So my support system was my family and my friends. I've actually had the same friends since the 6th grade, the ones who kind of hooked me up with this person. Wow. So they had my back, even through the process of going through before the divorce and everything, they had my back. So I'm just blessed to be able to have that tribe. Like, I have a great, great, great support system. So I knew I was going to be okay on that end. It was just the emotional stuff, can't nobody really help you with that but God and prayer, but you got to just go through that.
So what advice would you give to people who are ashamed is the right word to say, too ashamed, they're fearful of telling their loved ones what they're going through? What advice would you give them just to be open, be transparent?
Yeah. So find someone that you can really trust, even if it's one person. If you have a church home, someone at your church, find someone that you can trust and just let them know and, ask them to come into agreement with you with prayer and ask God for direction and just open up, because you holding all of that stuff in it's just making things worse for you. You don't want it to come out in a different way where you're yelling at the kids or, you're dealing with, you need to be able to talk about it in a healthy way with someone you can trust. So find that one person that you can trust and just talk.
Now, you wrote a book.
Mm-hmm.
And I said it already, girl, all the power to you. I'm proud of you for even doing it. What is the title of your book?
So the title of my book is Finishing Touch by Regina Latrice. It's a survivor's journey.
And what is that book about?
My story, my testimony from the age of 13 up until now. the things that I went through, but also the things that God is doing in my life now.
What inspired you to write that book?
So like I told you, I have an online clothing store, and I was on the news one day, and God had already been dealing with me about writing a book. But I was on the news one day, and my publishing company, Forward Books, they saw me on the news talking about my clothes, and my clothes are tied into, like I told you, my testimony with my boutique is tied into my feelings of not being worthy, insecurities, and all of that. So I was talking about all of that on the news, and they reached out to me and say, hey, you have a powerful story, and they were interested in writing it in a book. And I kid you not, I was at Walmart, and I was on a parking lot just sitting. God spoke. He said, start writing. Literally. Right after that, I looked at my phone, and I had the inbox from the publishing company about them saying that they saw me on the news and they think that my story would be good inside of a book. So I knew that it was something that God had already been putting on my heart to do. It was just the right time. And seeing all these abuse cases and everything, it was just like God's timing for it all. So I was just like, you know what, let's go. Let me go ahead and do this because God is speaking and I need to move while he's speaking,
I love it. You see what happens when we're obedient?
Yes.
We trust God. You see how many things he does for us, and we're like, if I had known before.
Yes.
But it's perfect timing.
Yes. His timing. Yes.
There was no other time but now.
Yes.
You had to go through that season and that process, even as painful as it is.
Yes.
You had to endure.
Yes.
For your now season.
Yes.
And what's next, girl? Because I'm telling you, he got plans for you. Now, where can we get that book?
So you guys can go on Amazon. Like I said, it's Finishing Touch by Regina Latrice on Amazon. Or if you guys follow me on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, you can directly message me if you want a signed copy. And I can also send it to you as well.
I need that copy. So I'm messaging you.
Hey.
Now, Domestic Violence Month. It can be a beautiful moment for some, and it could be triggering.
Mm-hmm.
It could be re-traumatizing for some people.
Mm-hmm.
And I find this month to be a learning lesson for people, especially with what's going on right now.
Yes.
We see it happening with celebrities. We see people coming out and saying things that happened to them, and people are picking it apart, judging them, calling them names, doing things. A lot of people are going through things right now. October 2024. Mm-hmm. This month is very special.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very learning and challenging experience for those who have never experienced it before.
Yes.
What could you say for this month that you've learned, that you have accomplished and you appreciate, and a message that you can give to other survivors, people who are going through it, and people who have no knowledge,
mm-hmm.
who just want to know?
So to the people who have been freed from it, I commend you. Great job on allowing God to lead you out of that and, being brave and bold enough to leave and being strong enough to let it go. For the people who are going through it, like I said, just take my advice, my testimony. I'm going to say my testimony and know that look at yourself as if look at me as like you're looking at yourself. I've gone through the same thing, some things I didn't even talk about on here, but I've gone through the same struggles, everything that you can say that you've gone through as far as the emotional, the things with the children, the financial things. I have been there, but just know that life does not end there. You don't have to, just because you've been in it, I don't care if it's been 30 years, you don't have to stay stuck. There is still hope for you. God is allowing you to breathe every day because he has a greater plan for you. So don't feel like you're alone in this. Don't feel like you're the only one going through it. Don't feel like nobody understands, because trust me, I understand. And I am here to help you in any way that I can. I pray for people all the time that I don't even know, but just know that that's not life. Being miserable and living, I didn't want to live. It was a point I didn't even want to be here. That's how miserable I was. But I thank God that he opened up my eyes and he can do the same thing for you. So get with someone that you can trust. Get with somebody that you feel safe with and start planning your exit. But make sure you go to God. He will give you strategies. He will tell you exactly how to do it. And he will take good care of you. You will like nothing. Don't worry about food, clothing, money. If he was a breadwinner, don't let that keep you around. Don't let money keep you around, because guess what? God has a purpose for you to go make your own money, and you be dependent upon, first of all, him anyway. And then you can do it for yourself. So there is hope. Don't feel like you're alone, because you're not. I promise you, you are not. And I can sympathize with you, and other women can sympathize with you. But there are millions and of testimonies of women and men who have escaped, and they're doing just fine. They're doing even better without that person.
I agree. And for people who are still learning how to be there for their family members, friends, and peers that may be going through it, have experienced it, they don't understand, what would you tell them?
Don't judge people. Don't go in saying, how could you do this? If I was you, I wouldn't, because you're never going to understand it unless it's you. And I pray that it's never you. But just listen and just be there. Sometimes you don't even need to talk, just being present and being there, just to be a support. Because one thing that you don't want to do is discourage someone when they're trying to confide in you, and then they don't want to talk anymore. They just gonna be like, well, this is why I don't open up, because you're judging me, or you're acting as if you understand. You don't, because it's nothing that you can't say I understand what you're going through if you've never gone through it. So just being there, helping that support, and just allowing them to just be allowing them to confide in you, so that they can begin to trust you, so that you can help them to get out.
I agree. And for our listeners that, just want to connect with you, and just for you to be an ear for them or give them some type of advice, encouragement. Maybe they might have questions for you, how you did it. What did you do? Pray for them. How could they reach out to you?
So you guys see my name, Regina Latrice. That's on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Inbox me, reach out to me. We can exchange numbers, or however you guys want to do it. I can send you my email if you're more comfortable with that. But just reach out to me on those social networks, and then I will definitely get right back with you. It doesn't take me long to respond.
Regina Latrice. Guys, thank you for joining Regina Latrice and me tonight to honor domestic violence survivors, thrivers. DMV is such a touchy topic, especially right now, with what's going on in social media with different celebrities and people that are now either coming out or being investigated for domestic violence. And, it's a very touchy topic, because when people don't understand, they tend to deny. They tend to pick at things and try to figure out, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you wait 20 years? Why would you wait 30 years to come out about your domestic violence? That doesn't make any sense. You're a grown adult. What held you hostage? It's a mental thing. And I would like to say, where you don't understand, or if you have loved ones, somebody that's going through it or have experienced it and now they're going through the process of coming out, where you don't understand, just be a support. Where you don't understand, just be present. Where you don't understand, just give grace. Because you can imagine that person and what they're going through and how they're processing themselves. Like for me, there's a lot of things that I've gone through, and I've talked about it on this podcast a lot of times. And looking at the old version of me, Janelle Simpson, Jen Simpson, looking back at the things that I've went through in my past, I say to myself all the time, there's no way that I allowed that. That's not me. Because when you have healed and you've gotten to a certain point and a certain level, and the layers of your old self has faded away, has fallen off, you can't even remember that old version. You're disappointed that you allowed certain things. So for me, I was disappointed with things that I allowed to happen to me, because the person who I am now would have never allowed it. So it's hard for me to even imagine some of the things that I went through. So before you speak, before you say something, before you try to poke at somebody for their stories and the things that they went through, try to understand. Do your research. Ask questions. Give grace and give love where you don't understand. Because it's not easy for survivors to come out and say, well, this is what I went through. It's like a feeling of shame, resentment, anger towards ourselves. So it's hard for us to navigate and come out. And it does take years. It does take years. Think about something that you've done in the past that you may not have wanted somebody to know. Take a good second and think about something that you've done in your life that you're not proud of. or something you allowed to happen to you that you're not proud of? You think about it, it's the same type of feeling. For domestic violence month, October, I want you guys to take the moment to give love, extend grace where you don't understand, be a voice, be present, listen, do your research, help somebody find resources, because there's plenty of them now. And thank God for these resources that are now available to people. Down in the caption, you'll see some resources. If you are somebody who's going through domestic violence right now, and domestic violence is not always physical. Sometimes it's verbal. Sometimes, you feel trapped. You can't leave. I'm here. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to Regina. She'll be a voice. If you want to send in your story, if you need prayer, leave a comment. Send me an email. My email's in the caption below. Send me an email. I would love to pray for you. I would love to connect with you. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to send you some resources. Plan together. Plan how you're going to leave that situation. There are resources down below that you can click on, that you can read. You can contact some people. Get some help. We are here. We're all here for each other. No judgment. And if anybody wants to judge you, that's perfectly fine. We are focused on you, your heart, your spirit, your mind, your soul, getting the help that you need, healing, becoming the person, becoming the man or the woman that you were meant to be, you were called to be. So guys, extend love, give grace, always. Try to be there for each other where you don't understand. Help each other get through. And remind people that they're not alone. As much as it may feel lonely and dark, you are not alone. Guys, I love you. I'm proud of you for continuing to do life, continuing to choose yourself, continuing to give yourself love and grace. And just be there for somebody, even if it's a voice of reasoning. Guys, until next time, I'm Jen Simpson. I love you guys so much. I'm so happy to be back. Last couple of weeks, I've been sick back to back, as you can hear in my voice. But I'm getting over it, and I will be back. Moving around. Guys, until next time, I'm Jen Simpson. I love you, love you, love you, love you, love you, love you. Enjoy the rest of your week, your night, your morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world.
Phenomenon. Cold ink.